18% of the world speaks English, which means if your game is English only, you're missing out on 4 out of 5 potential players. In an increasingly difficult, competitive, and monetization landscape, what are easy wins to increase reach and revenue? And the answer is localization. Sounds boring? Maybe, but I don't consider money and potentially even the survival of your game or your studio that boring. The tricky part is, how do you do it right? What are some of the tips and tricks so that you can do localization in a way that can save you time and money and in a scalable way? So today I'm speaking to Alexander Murauski, the CEO of Alkonost, who has been in the localization game for over 21 years and has worked with hundreds and hundreds of different studios in localization. Learn from an experienced veteran that has been doing it for a very long time right here on Gamemakers, starting right now. All right. Hi, Alex, and welcome. I'm really glad to have you here with me today. Today, we're going to be talking about game localization, a topic that a lot of people probably put off for too long. And the question I wanted to start off with, Alex, is basically there was an interview with Mr. Beast, and he talked about how massive of an impact localizing the Mr. Beast YouTube channels to different languages had on his growth and, you know, the even greater success of his business. And so I thought we'd kick things off by talking about this impact, the economic impact. I think in today's day and age, when we're talking about efficiency and ROI and things like that, people want to know what is that economic impact? Could you kind of characterize how you think about it? So localization to one or several or even more languages, what does that impact look like for game developers?
Yes, absolutely. Great question about the economical impact of localization. And I know this case with Mr. Beast because my three of my kids, they are big fans of Mr. Beast, and they watch they were watching him in their native language, and now they are watching them in English. And what he did is really a great thing by subtitling and voice overing his video clips. What he got is a huge audience. It's if you look at the numbers, only 18% of people in the world they speak English. So every 4 or 5 they will not be using a game or product or watch some video without if it's only in English and if they do not understand that. So and if I speak especially about such countries like Korea, Japan, and China, there is 90% of people they do not accept products which are not localized. They simply don't like and they don't understand. It seems to them uncomfortable. And obviously, by localizing, you get the audience, you get more people, more players all over the world. And take, for example, you translate into Spanish, you get 550,000 speakers of Spanish language. It's a huge. It's more than the population of the United States. So just one
like
language.
550 million? Is that what you mean?
550 million.
Okay.
Right? Yes, more than in the US.
Okay.
And, the Chinese language gives you more than 1 billion.
Right.
And Hindi is 600 million of new players, new users. So and they can buy a product, and that's the economical effect of localization. So some firms, some game developers, they think of localization as a growth hack. When they just localize, they get more traffic from the stores. So if you want to receive more players organically from App Store, from Google Play, from Steam, if you're not localized, for example, App Store would not give you the opportunity to be presented in some local store. They will check that your game is localized into Japanese, And if
Right.
it's not localized, you will be not accepted. So you just cannot go there. And just not localizing just limits this organic opportunity to drive more users to you again. This is simply as that. And speaking about smaller games, smaller apps, it's not so expensive to localize into
Mhm.
like 10 languages that are top, that cover 80% of population in all over the world. So if you localize like Chinese, Spanish, English, Hindi, Portuguese, French, Arabic, Japanese, German, and Russian, you cover 80% of population on the earth. So it works of just localizing at least first user uh, interacting screens like game descriptions, like screenshots, like first levels of games.
Mhm.
So that's kind of thing. So localization gives you scale.
Right. So just to understand your perspective, the way that you're thinking about localization is really about broadening reach, and obviously, as you broaden reach, you also potentially broaden the audience that can monetize in your game. And you're saying 18% of the world is English speakers. And so when you think about, and you mentioned 3 or 4 different languages that you could add to dramatically
Mhm.
expand that reach, but how do you typically make that call in terms of, okay, I want to add Hindi or I want to add, Spanish or some other language? What kind of
Mhm.
analysis do your clients or the clients that you typically work with, how do you think about that? And then how do you actually decide, okay, here are the 3 or 4 languages or the, 15 different languages. I mean, where where do you
Mhm.
draw that line? How do you make that decision?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. Um, just localizing is not enough to be successful in a region you are intended to go. So it starts with your marketing possibilities. If you want to localize into Japanese, for example, and if you're quite a successful game, you will need support, just customer support, community support. Without that, localization will not help a lot. I mean, in some cases where this is important. Um, if you want to localize, you the first thing you must think about how we will drive traffic for your game. And if, for example, the advertising, the cost of cost of player acquisition is too high, then maybe localization is not worth it. It will not have the return on positive return on investment. So sometimes you'd better localize not into Japanese, which is very high paying country, but advertising is too expensive. Maybe it's worth of localizing into Indonesian. Lots of people, less paying, but the advertising costs nothing. This is just an example. What you can do in marketing. After that comes the selection of the language. If you have some representation in Japan, in Korea, you have some marketing people there. You have opportunity to advertise there. You have some local partners. Then the localization goes automatically as a need, and that's the best scenario. First, you plan your promotion, your marketing, your opportunities there, and then you localize. But that's the ideal scenario. The basic scenario is to translate into 10 languages, which are if we speak about Europe, it's the abbreviation FIGS, French, Italian, German, and Spanish. So 4 languages, and then CGK, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and then you can add whatever you want, like Arabic, which covers a lot of people worldwide, but requires technical things because the layout is right to left, not left to right. So it just implies that some development should be done. So to decide, it's easy. First, your possibilities to market on the market, and then just selecting the most popular languages among internet users. Maybe we can look at the GDP numbers of the regions of the countries just to assess the how they will pay.
Right.
That's
And Alex,
basically.
maybe I could pause you for just a second there because I think there's a little bit to unpack in terms of some of the comments that you made. So I guess the first thing that you talked about, which I think that it would be good for our audience to understand, is that when it comes to localization, it's not just in game, right? So you're talking about what are all the localization touch points. So there's in game, but you're also saying the app description, so app store, also marketing. Also, you talked about community, so you might have whether it's your Discord or your website. So it's
Yes.
not, so when you're talking about localization, point one in terms of some of the things that you discussed is that there are multiple localization touch points that you need to consider. Second, going back to the original question, which is around how do you make that decision about which languages to localize to, I kind of heard two things from you. The first thing that I heard was that you're saying that you want to actually try to understand the attractiveness of a region. So even though you're saying like Japan as an example may have extremely high ARPU, what is the potential ROI for those countries? One thing that I generally do when I look at attractive geographies is to use a service like an App Magic, for example, to check the data for similar games. And so I'll do the countrywide split and look at those countries. But in terms of analysis, are there, are, how do your, like one thing you said is just go with the base ten languages. So do you recommend that your clients do the base 10 languages because you just kind of don't know, or do you actually suggest that you do something like I do, right? Which is like looking at the data of similar games and trying to determine the attractiveness of those countries based upon other games that have more penetration in specific geographies.
Yeah. So regarding those 10 languages, they've been with us for 20 years.
Okay.
Nothing changed. So 20 years ago,
Yeah.
the advice was those 10 languages, and every game localizer would say that just go with those 10 languages, and this gives you maximum impact. But if you are very sophisticated and a game developer with who cares about unit economics, about maybe you have investors that are looking for this return on marketing investment and the advertising. You have different channels. You want to assess whether it converts or not. Then indeed you go with App Magic or better for games and app stores. It's Sensor Tower or App Annie or similar web. They have all those packages, and so you dig into the numbers. But that's not about game development. It's like the task of a chief financial officer, not an indie game developer.
Right.
So
Okay. And sorry, and there's one other
mhm.
point that I wanted to talk about based upon what you were previously talking about, which is that you also suggested that before you localize into a country, you might also think about the investment required because it may not just be localizing to the country, but you suggest you may need a marketing team in whether it's like India if you're doing Hindi or Japanese if you're doing Japan. So What have you seen, or like if you do localize to one of these different countries, um, what what do you see? What do you recommend in terms of that on the ground presence, whether it's for a marketing function or whether it's just for localization?
Well, I would definitely recommend having some people who would be responsible for marketing in each
Hmm.
region.
Okay.
That's a must. But that's if we speak about like larger studios, they ship their game and they need to work with those all those influencers with advertising in different markets. So it's a big marketing department, or they have some marketing agency who is doing the thing. For small indie developers, the resources, the opportunities are very limited. They
Hmm.
can only just publish their game on Steam, for example, select all the languages Steam supports, and provide all the content localized into those different languages, different screenshots in different languages, game descriptions, and this is pretty much everything that is available for just smaller studios. They just spray and pray, I would say.
That sounds like most of the games industry.
Yes. We work with different game development studios to
Mhm.
localize their games, and they're very different.
Right.
90% of them are just this kind of. We'll localize to every language we just we can just to cover everything everywhere,
Right.
everything and everywhere. And sometimes it works. It works because people on the App Store they just download more, and this pays out. But there are some companies that are driven by finance, by the investors, by the return on market investment. So they test waters first. So
Hmm.
they, for example, they auto translate with Google or with ChatGPT
Yep.
some part of the content,
Hmm.
and they publish it. Take for example Indonesia. They are testing Indonesia, so they translate it and then and published, and they see that it it has positive return on investment, and so
Mm.
that they then they redo the translation by just mm, with more quality, and they add some representative to make this community support. They might do something more in Indonesia to get some coverage, more influencers that would be streaming their game there locally, and so they started with like stepping on a very thin ice. So there's testing waters with the
Right.
localization, just localizing very few of the assets, just starting to see, and also there are some those A/B testing platforms like similar like Split Metrics.
Hmm.
So you can A/B test how they download or
Right.
they how they install if it's localized or not localized. And it's
Right.
obviously when it's you can before you invest in the full game localization, you can invest a little bit to just see how it will work.
I would probably consider myself as not deep enough as far as localization is concerned. So I definitely would like to ask you some questions about that because it does
Mhm.
seem there is more to localization than I had originally considered. But I would say maybe the question I can ask you, because the way I can tell you the way that we're doing it, which is probably not good enough, which is we're kind of delaying localization more to the back end, right? Where it's like,
Mhm.
okay, we've got all these game development issues and problems. We got to focus on the game development.
Yeah.
And then we think about integrating localization kind of towards the end. And it becomes like I wouldn't quite say an afterthought, but I think it would be good to get your expert opinion as somebody who's been, who's focused on this and who knows the best practices. what is the best timing? What is the best process to maximize efficiency and reduce time and cost? What do you recommend versus just like focus on the game design? Oh, we're gonna launch. Okay. Oh yeah, we need to do localization. Okay. What do you recommend?
Yes, I definitely, and basically, this is my best advice for every developer of whatever, a game, app, a website, of whatever.
Mhm.
Localization should be started day one. Just
Oh, okay.
if you think that if you have ambition of localizing your uh, game into even two languages, maybe three languages, or maybe 30 languages, if you have this idea that in the future you will do this, then you should start with two languages. One might be some of your second language, but start with two. And by starting with two, just the day one will imply that your game will be technically internationalized,
Mm-hmm.
be ready to be localized into not two languages but 20 languages. Because once you start with two languages, you think about how the languages will be switched between each other. So you get the language switcher, and then you implement technically how the language switches in the game. So you're using some SDK, and you do not hard code your localization strings into the code. You extract them to be them in a separate file because you have two files
Right.
now.
Right.
And two is not very it's not too much to support in parallel. So even one of those languages could be artificial or machine translated something.
Mm-hmm.
But this gives you from the very beginning this development hygiene. You're developing in the way to support those two languages at the very beginning, and then you get the right plugins if you're talking about Unity, how they or right SDKs, how to. So you build the process, and you live with localization from the day one. You think about date-time formatting, for example, number formatting. The SDK, the language itself you're writing your game in, will be just helping you to intentionalize your code. It's in the guidelines of if you develop in Kotlin for Google Play. There is internationalization guidelines of how to do localizable applications. You will be thinking about currencies. You will be thinking about implementing maybe some payment processors if you think about different markets. And also you will be thinking right away about the fonts. That's tricky. For example, what's the common mistake when the game is developed by Japanese or Chinese developers? They have hieroglyphs, and the font size and the font that support the font size is bigger than in if you just use the font in Latin, Latin-based world. And so the size of the font is not a very big problem, but when Western developer tries to localize their game into Japanese, and they have developed some super pixel font that is very immersive in the game, but that font, it contains only Latin letters. So when they switch to Japanese, no font supports so many symbols. There's very custom, very rare custom font supports everything. So knowing about this just implies that you switch the fonts, you see how it will work, and then if you ever localize to Arabic, then the layout is different. So it's right to left. In Windows, this start button was at the right. I was very surprised to see this not on the left. So just starting with two languages solves you the whole 80% of localization in the future, because adding more languages costs just adding more localization files to your localizable assets folder, and that's it. And then when you have two languages, you become bored and tired of managing them, because adding the one line of in some dialogue, just one line or one dialogue would imply that you will just insert those texts into two files. It starts to bother you, and then you come up with as an engineer with some solution, which we call localization platform, that allows it's simply is integrated to with your GitHub repository. It takes your source language string resources file, and then allows to duplicate it into whatever number of languages, translated automatically, and it merges all the changes. So you only work on source file in your GitHub. You just make this merge, and then you get the pull request from the localization platform with all the translations. And as a developer, you just don't have any pain of localizing just forever. It just works. And then if you're super development operations specialist, and you set up your continuous delivery, nightly builds, automatic building. So you just integrate localization into your build pipeline, and you get your game localized almost like automatically. If you add automated translation, then it's just instantly localized into whatever kind number of languages. And if we speak about adding people, they can human translators, they can work on the localization platform and localize just the next day your updates. So you get your localized build almost in no time, and this is how it must work ideally. You don't postpone the localization, you make it continuous. And this is my best advice is to start just with two languages, and this resolves everything in the future.
Just reinterpreting kind of some of your comments, basically your argument, which I agree with, is that it's better to think about localization from day one, from the perspective of localization scalability, right? So for example, if you don't consider localization in terms of maybe the code, also in terms of like art assets, if you bake in images with text in it, you don't want to do that, because then it's going to be harder. Or even in the UI, right? If in terms of like how you're presenting the language with the UI. So if you consider that from the beginning, then later you don't have to go back and refactor the code or redo the way that the art is done. It would be a much more scalable process and much easier to manage in the future. Okay, and so like, it sounds like this is a problem that maybe a number of companies could be facing now. And when it comes to the point you made about fonts as well, you know, and I remember in the past, like one of the big problems for us was like, with respect to UI was German, right? Because we had this much space and we put the German in, it's like, ah! But maybe could you also speak to then other common problems and issues? So, you know, one could be this issue that you brought up, which is like not considering localization for localization scalability from the beginning. But when you meet with different studios, what are some of the other common problems as far from a localization perspective that you've seen? What mistakes can we avoid?
Yeah, so there are technical and translation errors. So technical, this is your case with German text that is not fitting the size of the button, so overflowing. This usually happens, but this can be fixed by the developer themselves. They just see with their eyes without knowing German, for example, that something is wrong there. It just doesn't fit, and that's it. So no language proficiency required to do this QA job. the most tricky mistakes they come in localization from mistranslations. So when the translation is done without context, say for example you have a button which is captioned "cancel." So it can be translated in different languages in many different time. It might be might have different meanings, whether you are going to cancel or this is just a verb or just a pronoun, and just lots of things. Without the context, the translator would translate it in some way, and in the game it would come up with in different contexts differently, and that's the most big problem. How to solve it? So it's structuring the resources for the translation. Say for example, it's not just an Excel with some strings, but it might be a JSON file which has structure. Like the structure could be like game screen number 1, dialogue, save dialogue, save button, and the caption on the button is save. And you know, just telling from the structure the content, the context of this string, and not only the translator does know this, but also the developer also knows that this save is used here and not everywhere in the project. So you may have one button OK and using in every project, but in some dialog it must be translated differently or used in. So that's a point that the most tricky problem come with mistranslations. To solve this, structured string resources and also screenshots. Sometimes the localization platforms, they allow finding automatically screenshots that are matching the strings that are being translated. So it matches automatically using AI or some machine vision, and so the translator would see the screenshots. Because sometimes they always play the game, of course. But if it's so big, like universe, you cannot get anywhere. So those mistakes, mistranslations, they are we hunt them, we fix them on the stage of quality assurance. So after the game is localized and when we have the test build, then we run through all the screens to see that everything is fit. So this is about the mistakes with translations and context. Also, the terms consistency. So, say for example, you have some characters in the game, and they have names, and they reference each other. And if they are translated in different ways, it breaks everything. So, or there are some artifacts or location names. So once you have some axe, and in another translation you have a hammer, and this is basically the same thing, and they are mixed. So the glossaries, having this book of every term, every description of every item in the game is a must. This will help translate this consistently through all the story. And basically this glossary and style guide are the common practice. When we start to localize game, first thing we think and we require from the client to build a glossary. If there is no glossary, then we build it and approve. So all the items, all the names, everything is on the glossary.
And Alex, sorry to interrupt, but you mentioned glossary and style guide. How does the style guide differ?
Yes.
I understand glossary. What do you mean by a style guide?
Yeah, for example, a style guide is a basic description of the game itself, or what happens, given the context, giving the context for the translator. In the style guide, for example, it may contain the how do you address a player? Is it formal or informal? This is very important because it's you or so another
Right.
you, which
Right.
is
Right.
polite. So you, this is one of the things they usually have in the style guide, and also about translating humor. Uh, mm, Whether we translate the humor or we don't translate, we just translate, or uh, do we recreate it, or we just translate it with some reference that was a humor. Is it literally translated or not? So yeah, there are many things that give more of the context around the game, which is not in the text itself.
Okay. So I want to ask a next question, but then I also want to circle back to some of the comments that you made because I think
Mhm.
it's because you're saying some pretty interesting things, but it's easy to miss because you're just kind of like talking through it. So I wanted to circle back on those, but kind of shifting to practical implementation. What I have seen a lot of game studios do, especially small game studios, is just have you mentioned Excel spreadsheet, whether it's an Excel
Mhm.
spreadsheet or a Google spreadsheet, you've got column A, which with the English, and you've got column B for maybe your Spanish, then your whatever, your Japanese, your Chinese, your Hindi, your whatever, right? There's different columns. But some of the things that you talked about when you talked about common problems was one one thing that you mentioned was a lack of structure, right? And so then you talked
Yeah.
about, well, you could have an Excel sheet, but then maybe it's better to have a JSON file instead that tells you where the text is actually going within a kind of structure. I think the
Mhm. Mhm.
second thing you mentioned was this notion of context, right? So if you have this Google sheet with columns and you
Mhm.
don't know where, like if I were to tap on some like a specific text string that I want to translate, wouldn't it be nice to see the screenshot where it's used so you have the full context of where it's going to be used? So that's the second thing. And the third thing was like that you mentioned was like also having the context of the style or how things are like the whether it's informal or formal style or things like that. So with those things in mind, what is the best practical implementation? What is a problem that I see so commonly with smaller studios of the Google
Mhm.
Sheet columns approach? How do we avoid some of the mistakes or problems that you just talked about with like a
Mhm.
different way of doing things? What's an alternative approach so that we avoid some of those problems?
Google Sheets is very convenient. It's a very obvious way for
Mm-hmm.
keeping the localization there. You have tabs or columns with languages, and you have the spreadsheet. The problem with the spreadsheet, the main one is when you have more than like 10,000 of lines in the spreadsheet in one language,
Mm-hmm.
it starts to just sometimes it just doesn't open. It's just slow down. So
Yeah.
10,000 to 10 languages, and basically you it's easy to damage. You delete something, and that's it. So it's yes, there's a version history, but you would like to share that spreadsheet to some translators, maybe that might be convenient, but they will corrupt anything. So for very small, for the very start, it might work. Uh, but the main problem is uh, you don't have this. So every localization platform that will be working with, they will require the key,
What do you
the
mean by the
common
key?
standard. Speaking about the common standard of keeping localization resources somewhere is that you keep them with key and value, key
Okay,
values.
for
So
sure. Yep.
the name of the string and the string itself.
Right, right.
Uh,
Key value pair.
there is a
Got it.
terrible, yes. So that's the common thing. And if you have key, then you already have some structure because in key you might use dots, and this you will
Right.
not use JSON, but you will use keys, and by key you will be telling that the contents, the context of the string, the developer would know themselves. In spreadsheet with no keys, the developer themselves, they do not know where this line happens in the code. So this is just unmanageable. For a small game, it's okay. And there is a terrible format, PO files, which are used on to translate websites, where there are no key, and the key, the source text. And so if you change the source text, like typo, so you have typo in the source text, you just made a mistake in the source text. You just change it, correct it, and all your translations disappear because the key changes. And so your app will no longer see the translations. So using spreadsheets might be convenient, maybe for calculations of the volume of the translation. That might be maybe sharing with freelance translators, but that works with with very small amount of text. To get it real, the files must be key value or have some structure, and the best thing is to use some localization platform that will organize all the files in just one place, and you forget about just managing this file.
What is an example of a localization platform?
So there are plenty of them on the market. Some of the best are Crowdin. So
Crowdin, okay.
Crowdin and Tolg. There is also Phrase. There is also SmartCat. So localization platform, and Google will just give you so many of them. We mostly use Crowdin in our work, and what we like about the localization platforms at all, and what the developers like, they support every format file. You can even work with your spreadsheets. Why not? But the spreadsheet will be the resulting file. It will be just a container of your localized resources. But the work on the localization will happen on the platform, and the platform will have glossary, style guide, translation memory, which is very important, and different machine translation engines and modern LLMs so the localization platform will allow organize the localization pipeline properly. So this is my second advice. If you start with two languages, the next second advice, the next best advice is to use localization platform. Just from the very beginning, it doesn't cost a fortune to use it, but it organizes and makes it, I would say, professional. We use Git repositories to store our code. We use professional ID to develop. And for localization, we should also use professional tools, not just manually tossing the strings in spreadsheets.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question I have is that obviously localization in terms of translating text isn't something that you do on like a typical game studio would do on a continuous basis. So certainly working with a partner vendor like yours makes sense. But when it comes to choosing someone to work with, how would you recommend that game studios evaluate different localization partners? Like, whether it's with cost, turnaround time, quality, what are the different metrics that you would recommend that studios think about when they look at a company like yours or others like yours?
Well, that's a good question. So there is a universe of those who can provide localization to a game development company. And the first thing they are the developers thinking that they will hire some freelancers that would do the job, and for free, because there are some crowd. If you have a community in the game, like Minecraft, Minecraft is 80% translated by the community. So because of the huge crowd of people willing to translate, so the translations just comes using crowdsourcing. And if you have a community of a game, there might be some translators that would be willing to be credited in your game and to translate it for free. This is the first thought that indie developers think of how to translate it. But the problem with the community translation is that this is work, and this, if the game is big, then nobody would translate it 100% because it's lots of work, which must be paid for. There is not so much enthusiasm to translate everything. But some translation can be done, but they need some editor, some managing glossaries, managing translation memory, building the whole process. So it's tricky. But there are some games that are translated by crowdsourced people. Then the next step is to gather the freelance translators and pay them, and they will deliver translations. For that, you require management. So someone who will call themselves localization manager, which will be on the team of the game developer. Sometimes it's marketing or content manager, or maybe maybe a developer themselves. They start to manage all those translators. The problem is that it's hard to find translators that will not disappear, that would be cost effective and provide a good quality. You should be checking. Without knowing the target language, you will be not able to check the quality, and you will be waiting for your users coming and saying that your translation into French is awful and you just lost your money. So that's crowdsourced, then freelance translators, your own team. You just build, and those options are just to talk something about them. But the best options, of course, is to go to some agency that would do everything. They will have the linguists of your languages, 10, 20, 30. They will have those linguists with the experience of translating games, and they with the track record. And a good translation agency, I would require that they make everything transparent, so that I know the names of the translators, who they are. Might be their LinkedIn, or might be we sometimes do this blind CVs. So we make it as an agency, as us, we make it transparent. So the linguist becomes a kind of part of your team that will be with your game for many, many years. We have cases when we've been translating the game for 10 years, and that was just the same translator through all the years, just translating into the language. He knows the game. He's like working in this game developer, but just one hour per, sometimes months, sometimes it's week. So the agency would have this pool of translators ready to work, and the agency would have this localization platform. If you come without localization platform, probably the agency will just insist that you just use some, and they will recommend, and they will help build the process. And then you will get somebody who is responsible for your localization, the localization manager on the agency side. So one point of contact, you will be discussing everything about localization. Somebody's responsible. This responsibility is very important, because the game developer is no longer responsible for the localization. So the localization agency is responsible, and this frees resources on the game development side. How to choose the localization agency? So as I said, that must be transparent. So they might reveal who the translators are. They are not the CVs maybe, but the blind CVs and the names. And we often have some shared Slack channels with clients, with the linguists and with the project managers to just make things faster, to fix something. The test translation, I would say it's if I have some people in-house or some loyal users who would be able to check the quality of the translations, then I would go for with test translations with an agency. So we do much of that. The company, they don't know us, they have no trust, and they come and say, well, we have 20 languages, we must ensure that the quality is good. And what we do is we give them, as many things are preferential in translation, we give them to choose from the linguists with their style and different styles of translation. So if in the game studio there is someone, often it's a community manager of and the native speaker of that language. So if they can assess the quality, then they would ask an agency to provide them with the test translation and the linguists, maybe some different linguists for their project. So it's building teams. Agency already has that team, and it must be not black box. So for good agency is not black box and technically equipped to help technically. So that's
what is
my
an
advice
example of
working
being
agency.
technically equipped? When you say technically equipped, what can you give me an example of that?
Yeah, so you come with a spreadsheet and you get an advice to do that on localization platform. It might if your technical infrastructure, if you build the way the game the way it uses only spreadsheets, that's okay. But the translation must not go in the spreadsheets itself, of course. You get the platform. Sometimes it's free of charge, and all the localization work is done professionally on the platform with all those glossaries, translation memories, quality
Right.
assurance, automated quality checks. These different pipelines, when there are two people working, one translates, the second one is approving everything, or the machine translates and the second human linguist approves everything. This part is made professionally. It's impossible to do that just sitting in spreadsheets and sharing spreadsheets between
Got it.
20 people that will be doing something. So I would say this is what I mean in by technically equipped.
Okay. So let me just kind of read back to you what I understood from what you just said. So I think the first point that you made is that it's not just about choosing an agency like yours, but there's different options, right? So one is free
Yes.
crowdsourced, but then, not every game can do that. Not every game has a popularity of Minecraft. And then
Yes.
it's kind of what it is. The second is hiring freelancers, but then if you hire freelancers, there's going to be a lot of management overhead. They may not know about some of these best practices. Quality may vary. And a lot of the issues that you, for example, have already discussed on this podcast, they may not be aware of. And then when it comes to an agency like yours, what you recommend from the perspective of trying to evaluate an agency is one, the transparency. Who is doing the translation, making sure that you really get high visibility into who the person is and how, like the processes that you guys are using to communicate. Secondly, you were saying that you felt like I'm I'm going to translate what you said to quality, right? Having a
Yeah,
test
yeah.
translation, so you know that you're going to get your expectation in terms of what the level of quality that you're looking for. And third, does that agency have the technical support around the tools and the things that you would expect so that you can do the localization in a good way? Did I miss anything? Is that a good characterization of what you were
Yes,
saying?
the good correct. Yes, perfect, perfect. And I would also add about the technical side that the communication cycle, the continuous delivery is very important.
Mm-hmm.
So the real pain started was when there are just two new lines are introduced into the game, and the agency should have a capability of translating just two lines just next day. And two lines in 20 languages means that 20 people will be involved. And these two lines just without localization platform, without the proper management, this will break all the communication, all the pipeline of delivery of translation. So just I would add, that's very important. This continuous support, and also what's one more important thing is quality assurance. This stage, so there are several gates. There are automated quality checks in the translated content. That's a very basic thing. And another one is second linguist who will check the translated materials. And there is a quality assurance. It's a localization quality testing when the linguists will test the game in their regions,
Mm-hmm.
in their locales with their language enabled,
Yeah.
and they will check and make all the screens and issues. So the full localization cycle is so the localization agency will talk about localization testing 100% if it's quality localization.
Right. And I have a few follow-up questions. So first
Yeah.
question is, it seems like we still are talking about in-game localization, which is naturally what I think about. But some of the other points that just circling back to some of your earlier comments in terms of
Mhm.
localization touch points, it isn't just in-game, right? So it's, to your point, creative assets for potentially for marketing, community, ASO, app store descriptions, and things like that. So
Mhm. Mhm.
for your customers, what is how much of your business is in game versus some of that other stuff, and what do you do generally in terms of those other localization touch points?
Uh, well, in terms of uh, game development, uh, 90, I would say 99% of the localization goes uh, in-game, in-game localization, in-game content. And the best clients for localization are the games which live for like 10 or 15 years, and they have seasonality, some events in-game. Like imagine you have some farm, and to make it not boring, after a month they invent some Halloween parties or New Year or some anything that just updates the content of the game. And we like to translate these kind of things. And so, as I said, 99% of our localization, if speaking about the games, it goes in games. But when we speak about apps and some SaaS or different kinds of other businesses, this might sound complicated here. So it's sometimes what we translate is more marketing, for marketing. So there is product and product marketing. We translate the product, and then that's a lot of things about products that is not the product itself. For example, help system, reference system for software. A huge amount of text, but that's not part of the product, I would say. some blog posts, some advertising materials, some case studies, this kind of business. But it's rare case for games, for the games. I would say, yeah, what is not the game is this user journey. Yeah, they have very small website. The game developers, they have a very like just a landing page, very easy to translate. And then it's mostly app store descriptions, and that's it. And that's it. And then they have they have their influencers streaming, and that's not localizable. Maybe Mr. Beast is localizing his video, but any streamers, they do not. Maybe with AI they will do, but it's very limited content that is in the user journey, which is not inside the game.
Okay. So I want to ask one more follow-up question to the point on different options or alternatives for localization solutions, but I think it'll also lead us into a much bigger discussion, which I wanted to talk about, which is AI, right? So like when you talk about those different options, crowdsourcing for free, I know a lot of gaming studios and CEOs and things like that. Not many are looking at that. Freelancers, maybe a few studios are trying that. Agencies, I know a lot of studios use agencies for localization, but I think an increasingly popular option for small guys, I'm not talking about the big guys, is AI, right? Where maybe you have, you know, obviously to the points that you made, it may not be ideal, but let's say you have a spreadsheet with the, you know, you've got the key English and then other languages, and then you just use an AI service like ChatGPT or Claude or whatever to fill in the translation against the English, for example. Can you talk about that option and the use of AI in localization? How do you think about that? And what is the benefit of using an agency? Well, so one, do you use AI? And then how would you talk to a studio who's like, you know what, in theory, I can just do this stuff with AI. What would you say to them?
Well, we definitely, that's a very good question. We definitely use AI, and AI, it's used not only by small indie developers, but also the big guys with huge amounts of content. They are interested in the first place because they have resources to choose between the LLMs, to choose to train, to post-train their the LLMs so that it would translate better for them. So the most interested game developers are the big ones because they have large budgets and they want to cut the budgets. And that's
I've never heard of that before. I'm just kidding, Alex.
Yeah, so they were the first who would come to us and ask us whether we could translate everything with ChatGPT, and maybe it works, but it didn't in this way. So how it really works now? You just you can translate with ChatGPT. In localization platform, you can turn on the translation automated translation, and you will get your translation with ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or Qwen or DeepSeek, whatever. Every LLM is supported in localization platform, so you can do this, and it will pretty much translate well for some languages. But there are some tricks. Not every LLM translates good in all to all the languages. If we want to translate into French, then Mistral is doing better. If we want to translate to Chinese, then DeepSeek obviously does that better. And not in if you speak about European languages, maybe ChatGPT is okay, but except French. To Polish language, DeepL is doing best. It's not LLM, but just a translation engine. So to select the proper engine, this is what we do for our clients. This is part of our service when we knowing about the content type of the client having the content and knowing about the language pairs, we can choose the best AI to do the translations. But it doesn't translate 100% quality, of course.
Right.
It must be properly prompted, and the glossary is very important, and the style guide is very important, and the manager is very important, and the reviewer is very important. The reviewer would check all the translations, because you can go just with basic machine translation, but nobody is responsible for the outcome. As an agency, we are responsible for the quality,
Right.
so we must check. And so we negotiate with the client that we will be translating with this AI for your content type, for your language pair. This AI is doing best. Those are the tests, the metrics. We calculate lots of technical metrics on the to assess the quality of the translation. So we negotiate with the client that this will be using AI, we will be using a human reviewer, and the price would be like 30% less. It's not 100% less, it's not 90% less. It's like just 30% less, because the review would be reading.
Right.
Reading, assuring the quality, and reading and writing, that's not very big difference. Because back in times when there were no LLMs, there were different other machine translation engines, and also the translation memory. Even if the translation was made in the past and of the same chunk of text, it must be reviewed,
Right.
must have this seal of quality, and this is what we sell: responsibility and quality. We guarantee that our localization is good. So, and for this guarantee, actually the client pays this for this insurance, I would
Right.
say. So we are using AI, but this is strictly when negotiating with the client, when they ask, or we can just roll out several options. When they ask us for the price, we usually come with 3 options. Just human linguist, professional linguist who will be translating, plus maybe the other editor who will be reviewing. This depends on the budget. Then the other option is MTP, machine post machine translators, MTP, machine translated post editing.
Okay.
So when we agree on that to cut the cost, we can use for several languages this or that machine translation plus the reviewer.
Right.
And those are the 2 options. And the third one is we can go blind machine translation if the client has this content type for that. For example, it's a user interaction, some dialogues in some chat, or some user-generated content. Nobody just translates, nobody reviews the Airbnb comments with human, because they are just go machine translated, and that's it, and that's okay. So those are 3 options, and the client chooses, and they always know that we are using machine translation if we agree. We never do this just to instead of human linguists. This is about the proper way of building this around AI, and there are some game developers, they rely 100% on ChatGPT translations, and they are programming the translations through API of OpenAI, and that's okay. They sometimes invent some frameworks to check the quality, maybe that's okay. But what we see, we were afraid of 2 years ago. We were too much afraid of this as a business, of this scenario. But recently, we see that it's hard to automate. It's hard to automate this translation because sometimes you get unpredictable results. Without a glossary, your translations will be inconsistent. So you will be translating one word in different ways. This depends on how creative, how the temperature parameter is set up in the LLM, how creative the LLM will be. They will be hallucinating and inventing something that is not on the original text. This is a very common issue with translating with ChatGPT. And then fixing this costs money. And without a glossary, the translations are inconsistent. But when you have glossary and it's very big, then it doesn't fit to the context window of LLM, and it can't be used. So you must implement this retrieval of part of the glossary, insert into the prompt, and then translate. And then sometimes, if you want to translate something about a war, bombs, or some chemicals, I don't know. There are some games with terminology that ChatGPT is prohibited to talk about, and it will say that I would not translate this because it's about something.
Okay, so
something
just
illegal.
to recap, it sounds like what you're saying is that sure, there are some game studios that use AI, but the advantage of working with an agency like yours is like you guys actually do use AI. You're leveraging it. You know the best models to use. You know how to optimize the use of AI in translation, and that cost savings you're passing on to your customers in terms of like a 30% haircut or along those lines, right? And but then
Yes.
the thing that the area where you guys still add value is that obviously AI is not perfect. There could be hallucinations, and if you want to control the quality, as well as to have your agency input in terms of best practices, and the fact that you guys are actively using AI so you can optimize it, that's the advantage of working with an agency. Is that a fair characterization, Alex?
Yes, you get the quality assurance, of the localization, and also the testing, of the localized build of the game, and also this setup, choosing right model, doing all the technical stuff. You don't need to write the code to use LLMs for translation, because if you want to translate using ChatGPT, you cannot just insert your JSON file into the ChatGPT window and say, I want the translation. It will work for some time, but if the file is big, then it gets corrupted. And if you have 20 languages, you have 20 files inserting into ChatGPT window, and then so it's manual work that nobody likes. Instead of this, you will be obviously using API, and this requires development, and so you're just reinventing the bicycle, and the localization platform in the localization provider, they will do this, and basically it's for free.
Okay, Alex, I thought one other question I could ask you is like if you were to, just for our audience so they kind of understand what it's like to work with an agency, could you walk through maybe a case study or a real world example? Like when you're working with a client, if you could take us end to end from the very start, what does that engagement look like? How do you interact with them from the beginning all the way to the end? What does that process look like? Could you give us an example of that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's again a universe. Every client is different. But let's talk about one of the clients that are that been with us for 15 years already,
Okay.
more than 10 years. It's a long story, but that's my favorite. It's They started very small. They had a game. It's a farm simulator. You just plant some seeds, you get some fruits, you gather something into buckets, then you make juice, then you sell juice, you make money, you buy more stuff, more equipment, your economy grows, and then there are some characters, some so this kind of game. It's evergreen. It has daily, constantly returning users, daily users that are just they just love the game and they've been playing for 15 years. So they were just small studio, a small game studio, and they had just two languages, and they started with the US market, and that was a hit. And they had mobile game, no web. It was mobile game or web. No, that was a web game. That time it was just web, just web game. And we we got acquainted with them on some game development conference. This is the basic way of just meeting your clients. We started with spreadsheets. It was far. It's a very long story. Started with spreadsheets, and what the from the very beginning they had some translation that were not made by native speakers. That was important, and they had community managers and a huge number of users that were playing the game, and they started just adding 4 languages, which was French, Italian, German, and Spanish, because they wanted just to make that more global. Then there were the times where the localization platforms only just started to appear. That's and our main value proposition was organizing this automated pipeline of the delivery, and they with them we built this mixed. I would say the mixed team, when they are community managers and content managers and our localization managers. They are sitting together in one Slack channel and communicating like by email, by just in chat, and they have this the localization platform projects where they look at the same thing, at the localization resources there, and from that localization platform, the developers they export. Nowadays, they export stream resources in different formats. They can export as for iOS apps, for Google, for Android, and for web. So this is like central repository of their localizable resources. Every month we have a plan, a release plan. We know the release cycle of them. They plan the next release and they come with some files. They prefer, this is the case that when they prefer to create the content in files, that's basically Excel spreadsheets, because they are writers. They just it's the long it's very long so this is their process from the ancient times. They create the content in spreadsheets, and then those spreadsheets go to the localization platform. They are localized, checked, and then returned to the client. And 2 years ago, they started to adopt AI-driven translations. So they developed with us, and we developed with them. So they needed more and more languages, and we added more and more linguists, some exotic linguists, and then when they came and asked to implement the AI workflow, we did that. We built this pipeline of using AI just to help that client, and it happens so that this is just becomes new standard in the localization industry to build such kind of pipelines involving AI for the translation. So that was the very right time, and we followed our client everywhere when they wanted to get some exotic language to do some additional testing to help their community managers to mix the teams of the translators. Some of the translators they have in-house, some of them are ours, and they check each other. So that's a very long time. It's a lifetime. How we worked with client, and our teams, they are, so our linguists, they are like the extension of their team, of their development team. So they are players, they know the game, they are keepers of the localization of that game. So they so that might be my favorite case. But the common journey is might be absolutely different. They come with usually they come with just asking about the price. How much would cost to localize a game of this number of words to these 10 languages? This is the very common thing. We get leads every day of this kind. Some studio comes and asks just these 10 languages, 2,000 words or 2 million words. Sometimes they're that big, and they want prices. And when they ask, sometimes it tells us that they are very localization mature, what we say. So they know that they will get quality. They know all the platforms, all the setups, they know everything, but they need the price. The only thing they need the price. And as I said, there are always three options, and we start with the interview of the client, what they really need, what content types they have. In every game, they will have different content types, and how they prioritize those content. What goes first? What goes with better quality? What goes with less quality? So we build this knowledge of and build the roadmap of the localization, the future roadmap. We understand how what the time frame would be, and we have this Gantt chart of just stages, so that the client will see how the project will be implemented. Regarding the price, the very basic thing, it's all volume based when we talk about translating texts, and it's hourly based when we talk about localization testing. So the bigger the game in content, the bigger the budget would be. So the prices, they vary a lot. One could say it starts from, for some languages, from 6 euro or dollar cents per one word, and up to 18, for example. But nobody tells the price without seeing the content itself, without seeing the game, and without knowing the linguists who will be involved. Because when we have an estimate of a game in terms of price and time frame, we already know the linguists who will be involved, and we see if it's the huge game of just 1 million words, and it will require 5 linguists and months of work, then we could negotiate less prices with linguists and less prices to get less price for better price for the client. So it depends. So basically, it always starts with the interview. We understand the client needs, and then we we come up with a rough estimate price-wise and also time-wise. And then sometimes the client would require test translations to select the linguist that would be best. So we give them 3 to 5 different linguists with different styles, and which one is best. They're all high quality, but it's preferential sometimes. So and by this way we form the team. And we just start the process. We get the localization kit with whichever it might be anything, files in Excel, whatever, or JSON files, or already the project on the localization platform, whatever. It might be anything. We work with anything.
All right, great. That's all the questions I have actually with respect to your business. And I thought maybe we could end with just a little bit more of your personal story. We're all humans on this earth trying to do interesting things and trying to, create value in the world. So could you talk about how did you get into this business? How did you found your company? Could you talk about that a little bit?
So my background is I'm a mathematician and software developer. I'm developing to this day some of the things at Alkonost. So my passion is product development. And many years ago, more than 20 years ago, I've built a product. I started to sell it all over the world using e-commerce provider. And obviously, I translated it to some languages I knew. And that was very um, obvious for me that the software must be in English to sell well. But I had several friends. We were in the community of software developers that were doing the same thing as me, but their softwares were not localized, and they asked me to help them translate that software into English, and I helped. And then I had a girlfriend who translated software into German language. So, and I just recommended her to my friends, and they started to order from her. And I just passed the money from them to her, and everything was great until one of the clients would come and said that the quality of the translation was not good, and so I must return the money. But I just that was my girlfriend. She was a speaker of German, but maybe not professional translator, but who cared that time. I was not selling translations. I was just helping my friends to get translations. And but because of they were sending money to me and I was sending money to her, they were considering it as a service. And that time I understood that if you take money for something, you bear responsibility for the quality, and that goes without saying. So, and that time, just that moment, it became serious. So I understood that if I take money and deliver something, it must be quality. So I found another translator which would be of more quality. That was like a little business game for me, not so serious because I had my day job as a software developer. I had my software to sell through the internet, and that's what the side hustle. These languages. But I wrote an article into a local newspaper about this experience of translating softwares, and suddenly translators are starting to ask me to help them to get this translation work. And I said, well, okay, I'll give you translation work, but I charge you 50% of what client pays. So this was the margin. And this is how it started. I just made an announcement in the community that I have 4 translators into 4 languages, and they will help you translate your software. So I will organize every technical things, because there were no localization platforms. There were XML files, .ini files, every kind of files, and easy to break, etc. So I organized this technical side and in communication with the clients, and my translators, they did their job. And this is how it started, just from translating the software myself, then adding some friends, and it got traction, and it got some traction, more languages, more orders coming, and then I started to do some marketing, some sales activities, and I got some managers to manage this, and now Alkonost was last year, it was more than 100 full-time employees, which are localization managers.
Wow.
And so the core team. But if we speak about the translators, some of them we call in-house. They are living in their countries all over the world. It's 1,500 translators all over the world. So this big. This are the company that grew just from the
right. And at what point did you decide to go all, or I mean, I assume at some point when you have this much scale, you decided, okay, maybe I shouldn't be a software developer anymore. Maybe you should do this business. What was your thought process, and when did you decide to kind of flip to this?
There was a point. It was not money that made me decide. I had a very good salary at my day work as a software developer, and also I had this revenue from selling my own software. But I understood that I must build a company, because as a having a day job, you're alone. You have this glass ceiling. You cannot surpass some amount of you can earn if you speak about money. And again, selling my own software while alone, this is a solo developer. Now it's easy. It's AI vibe coding. You can do anything just alone. That's good, but not that time. That time, development products was very hard work, and it didn't give me much money to hire someone, and I didn't trust anyone because those software developers, it's hard. They were hard to find, and you give them the source code. Why don't they just go and sell my software on their own? That was that were my thoughts. But at that time, I somehow understood that I must be a company. I must not be alone. And building a company, that's a completely different thing than software development on solo. So I just knew that I must build a company. I don't know, this is my child dream, to build a company with some name and go with it. So when I understood that I'm negotiating with people, with translators, with developers who were producing software that were much more successful than mine. I was helping them to localize. I found myself surrounded by people who are doing something, and I understood that the company is just being born right that time. And among my translators was one of the guys who became a manager, and we became two of us. And that's the company and some translators. And then we just invited someone more, and it grew organically without any side investment, etc. And when I decided to go with my own company, I had a very good salary, but I refused to get the salary. I just quit. And I had no money sitting in my parents' house, and I just was taking some money from my mother to pay salaries.
Mm.
That was the first, several, maybe even years.
Wow.
But when while developing Alkonost, I've been also involved in different startups. I tried to build something different, something different from Alkonost, something else. And this DNA of doing something else in the company, it's just with us to this day. We are inventing something, uh, developing some products inside of the company, not only localization. So, and the reason our development is how we just use GPT and the Gemini and different LLMs to assess the quality of translation. We build a SaaS service, like it's available for free for now, but it can assess the quality of translations using modern AI LLMs. This is because we have this development culture inside the company, and also we have this Nitro translation service where you just top up your balance. You just send three lines of text, and they are translated into 20 languages by native speaker translators, just manual human translation, this kind of system. We developed that on our own, and this development culture helps us understand how the developers think. So whenever a client comes to us and we understand how they think, how the developer would organize uh, their files for localization. This understanding helps differentiate. We're not a translation agency which would translate everything like marketing or documents. We're a localization agency which knows how the developer thinks, how the developer works, what they need. This is the main difference. This is why Alkonost exists and why it's been it
Okay.
developed to
So,
this.
so maybe I could ask you one last question along these lines. So it sounds like
Mhm.
if I'm interpreting what you're saying correctly, that you're developing some type of uh, an AI eval product, right? So evaluating the outputs
Mhm.
of the translations done by AI, and that may be productized or maybe not. But when you think about the future of Alkonost, and certainly you've
Mhm.
had like this kind of traditional business. We've talked a little bit about AI. AI is certainly impacting a lot of different businesses in different ways. So when you think about Alkonost 5 years from now, or even further in the future, where do you imagine the company going? Do you think you'll have more of a product focus rather than a service focus? Will it be a blend of those? Are there other areas that you'll be exploring? It'd be great to understand how you think about the future of your company.
The future of Alkonost is absolutely around localization, around languages, because
Hmm.
this is the main expertise.
Sure.
But it's not only this service. It's also about the uh, technical. It's about maybe products around localization and for localization, like technical stack for localization. We started with Alkonost.mt project. This is a lab where we experiment with AI and delivering different tools for localization. They are helping us to be on the cutting edge of this technology. So every new version of AI coming, we just implement that in our technology stack. So I see that Alkonost as a company is a localization services vendor. I would say um, and as I like to say, we are like a tree. We are organically growing. If there is sun, if there is water, we are just growing organically. And this happens to all the localization companies in the world. We are in a very competitive market. We have 100 companies that we consider, and not only but also different researchers and indices. 100 companies that are considered our competitors, direct competitors, and that's a very competitive global business. And what we will do is we'll grow organically and disrupting from time to time different tools, platforms. some features of the platforms. I think so. It's the most organic growth. No super big ambition. I've been here for 20 years. I've got lots of ambitions, and what worked is Alkonost doing localization. But as an entrepreneur myself, if it could be separated from the company, maybe there could be some side projects, but that's not that's maybe different businesses, different companies. I don't know. I have plenty of ideas of something else, but I would say that speaking about Alkonost, it's about localization forever.
Got it. All right. Yeah, specialization, depth, that's all sounds great. Well, Alex, that's all the questions I have. I do want to thank you so much for going in depth in terms of your business and providing more context and information about localization. I do think we probably don't think about it enough. And so I definitely appreciate all of the additional information that you provided today. And so thank you. If people wanted to get in touch with you, so this is the very last point. If they wanted to get in touch with you, how should they do that? Should they go to the website? Do you have a social media handle? What do you recommend?
Well, it's basically LinkedIn in the first
okay.
place. So if yeah, LinkedIn, and also am@alkonost.com. So am is Alexander Murauski, am@alkonost.com. So that's it.
Okay. Great. All right. Well, for those in the audience that have made it this far, thank you so much for your attention, and hopefully we will catch you next time. Thanks, everybody, and thank you very much, Alex.
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you for having me.